Resistance to achieving that goal. We're going to work with the government to make sure we get it right, and we look forward to the opportunity to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think we'll leave the 10 minutes for questions and comments when the House next gets back to debate on the question. But now we're going to go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member,
The honourable member for Brassard Saint-Lambert. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we're celebrating a historic trade agreement, the first anniversary of the between Canada, CETA, between Canada and the European Union. Exports make up 60% of our GDP. Canada's competitiveness and its openness to new markets, the accessibility of its markets, especially for small business. CETA is an amazing agreement between Canada and the United States and Europe. And many businesses have seen an increase in their business. It benefits Canadians by having created a market of millions of consumers in Europe. The honourable member for Beauport de Beaupré, Ile d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We seldom talk about people who contribute to what we are, and I want to take this opportunity to thank them. Since I came back to Ottawa in 2015, these people have become my second pair of eyes, my second voice, and they support me in everything. Without them, I couldn't do my best. And I'm talking here about my assistants and colleagues. Thank you to Denis, Guylaine, Thomas, and Suzanne, who do extraordinary work in my riding. Here at Ottawa, Isabelle and Michael, who guide me through the angst of parliamentary business every day. I'd also like to thank my Conservative family, and I'd like to thank my leader who encouraged me to fight even harder faced with so many Liberal failures. To all these people, thank you for being there for me.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to rise to celebrate one of the most giving constituents from my riding of Central Nova, Mr. Archie Contact. With the help of our community, Archie has collected over 70 million pop tabs over the last 23 years. He's been instrumental in not only diverting them from landfills, but cashing them in to help make wheelchairs and to use money for those in need. As a child, Archie himself used a wheelchair for 12 years, but through much determination and rehabilitation, Archie was able to walk again. He says that he'll never forget what it was like to use a wheelchair and wants to help others living with that reality. The going rate for tabs is about 50 cents a pound, and to get a wheelchair, Archie needs to collect an astounding 3 million pop tabs. To date, he has helped secure over 22 wheelchairs, which has helped others regain their mobility and independence. Those wishing to help Archie can drop pop tabs off to Summer Street Industries in New Glasgow, head to the local bottle exchanges, or visit our friends at CACL in Antigonish. Archie shows us that you can do it, and that a little pop tab goes a long way.
Honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, today is World Alzheimer's Day, a day where organizations around the world raise awareness for Alzheimer's and dementia. In Saskatchewan, it's estimated that 20,000 residents will be diagnosed with a form of dementia by 2020. That's a health issue affecting more people than the population of our province's fifth largest city. Today, I rise to salute the outstanding efforts of the Alzheimer's Society Saskatchewan. Not only are they on the front lines helping those in need, but they're leading the way in the search for a cure. Last year, the Society was active in 302 communities across Saskatchewan. A day's work may involve helping families come to terms with a recent diagnosis or guiding people through what to expect as the disease progresses. Or it may mean connecting people to the services they need. For many, the Society is a lifeline. I invite all members of this House to join me in thanking the Alzheimer's Society for their outstanding service to the people of Saskatchewan and across Canada.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Oakville.
Mr. Speaker, it is with great pleasure that I rise to celebrate the Canada Summer Jobs Program in my riding of Oakville.
Employing youth in our community truly benefits all involved. Over 370 students contributed this summer in meaningful and positive ways to our small businesses, nonprofits, and public sector organizations. In turn, students gained relevant work experience and earned money for post-secondary education. Over the course of the summer, I was able to see firsthand the amazing contributions students were making to my community. I went paddling on 16 Mile Creek in an outrigger canoe with student leader Aiden and the kids at Wainui Canoe Camp. I practiced French with leaders Caitlin, Madison, Sean, Jade, and Florence, and the young campers at Camp Tournesol. And Mr. Speaker, I even learned the Swan Lake pose with Kira and Blythe and the young ballerinas at Ballet Au Maine. All this was made possible by our government's increased funding for the Canada Summer Jobs Program. I'm thrilled that so many organizations in my riding participated in the program and so many students benefited. Thank you.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, my friend Ray Gideon recently passed away at age 85, leaving behind his wife Violet, his children Wayne, Carrie, Nola, and recently deceased Linda, 12 grandchildren and 20 great-grandchildren. Ray was born near Edson and spent all his life there. He trapped and built a very successful contracting company. His children have followed in his footsteps. His grandchildren continue to work Ray's original trap line. Ray was a special person, believed strongly in politics, and was part of the political history of my region. Ray was not afraid to tell you when you were doing right or wrong in government. He had many hobbies, most related to the outdoors. That kept him busy, but he always found time for pranking his family and friends, teasing people, and of course, razzing the little ones around him. He loved and lived for his family and community. At the back of his land, there was an area he cherished. The landscape was breathtaking. It was part of his heaven, and now he is there. Goodbye, my friend. You will be deeply missed by all.
Well done, Jim.
The honourable member for Don Valley West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Monday, Canadians of Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese descent will give thanks celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival. Also known as the Moon Festival, this is a time for family and friends to celebrate the fall harvest and to be thankful for the past year of success. Loved ones will gather to enjoy traditional mooncakes, light lanterns, share stories, give gifts, and admire the beauty of the full moon. Tonight, constituents from my riding of Don Valley West will mark this event at the Mosaic Living Club and at Top Kids Education Centre with good food, fun, festivities, children and families. As communities from across this great country come together to celebrate, let us all look ahead to a future filled with prosperity and good fortune. From my family to everyone, Mr. Speaker, happy Autumn Festival.
The honourable member for Pontiac. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, students from all over Canada went back to university, cégep, and college. We can be proud of our post-secondary institutions, which are of international caliber.
1968 Canadian Rhodes Scholars and their spouses to Parliament Hill today for their 50-year reunion. This includes my father, Bruce Amos, and Pontiac constituent Rick French. The Rhodes Scholarship to study at Oxford University, of which a number of our honourable colleagues in this chamber were recipients, is the oldest and most prestigious graduate scholarship in the world. The recipients are motivated to engage with global challenges, commit to the service of others, and show promise of becoming value-driven, principled leaders for the world's future. The class of 1968, comme l'ensemble des récipiendaires de la bourse et des...
The class of 68, like all Rhodes Scholars, can serve as role models and examples for all those returning to their studies. Thank you.
Communion Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate the Armenian-Canadian community and Armenians around the world, celebrating the 27th anniversary of Armenia's independence. After 7 decades of Soviet domination, 27 years ago today, the Armenian nation regains its independence. Through a history of genocide, persecution, and foreign domination, the Armenian people have prevailed. The recent event in April 2018 was positive proof of Armenia's strong commitment to international and democratic standards. Canada has had great relations with Armenia and Armenian people. and we urge the government to continue strengthening those relations and work together to establishing a more harmonious and peaceful South Caucasus. Please join me in wishing Armenians in Canada and around the world a happy and memorable Independence Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Scarborough Agincourt.
Monsieur le Président, nous célébrons aujourd'hui.
We celebrate today Armenian Independence Day.
Armenia have had to fight for a country to call their own. In 1918, they were able to establish the first Republic of Armenia. However, in 1920, the Soviet Union invaded and took control. It was not until 27 years ago today that Armenia was able to re-establish its independence. On September 21st, 1991, the people of Armenia voted overwhelmingly in a national referendum in favor of creating their own country. In my riding of Scarborough Agincourt, there is a strong Armenian-Canadian community. This summer, I had the opportunity to attend the Armenian Cultural Centre's Summerfest, and it was wonderful to see the vibrancy of the community here in Canada. She nor ha vor enk nar.
The honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, I was pleased to recently announce an investment of almost $4 million for 42 new affordable seniors housing units in my riding of Ottawa West Nepean. These units are being built directly above the Carlington Community Health Centre. Seniors can simply take the elevator downstairs to access the doctors, nurses, and other services that they need. This will allow seniors to live independently longer so they can be healthier and happier. This innovative housing model could be replicated across the country. It is an example of all levels of government, the nonprofit sector, and the community working together to find solutions for low-income and vulnerable seniors. Conjugué à notre stratégie nationale de logement,
Along with our national housing strategy and governments between the province and the federal government, we want to give all Canadians the chance to succeed.
Prince George.
I rise today to speak of Darren Anderson. Darren and I grew up in Williams Lake together. From his earliest years, all Darren wanted to be was a firefighter like his grandfather, father, and uncle. He wanted to be the best there was. As a husband to his beautiful wife, Michelle, and as a father to his daughters, Grace, Noah, and Sophia, and as a firefighter. Serving for 17 years in the Strathcona County Fire and Rescue, Darren rose through the ranks to become lieutenant. He even started the Fire Fit program for Strathcona County. And just 12 days ago, he competed in the National Fire Fit Challenge and won bronze for his age, over 40. Sadly, 7 days later, Darren lost his battle with PTSD. Mr. Speaker, Darren loved life. He loved his family, and he loved his job. I spoke to his mom, Marlene, and his father, Gord, last night. And still reeling from the death of their son, their concern focused on those left behind. His friends, his family, his fire family, even the young paramedics that attended the Humboldt tragedy. They asked me to convey this message to his colleagues. Darren was so honored and proud to be part of the firefighting and first responder family. Please take care of one another. Take a moment to ask one another if they are okay. Please be well. To Gracie, Noah, and Sophia, your dad truly was a hero and made a difference in the world. He touched the hearts of all who knew him, and he will be greatly missed.
Alfred Pellan.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. September 21st is World Alzheimer's Day, and in Canada more than 1 million people are affected by this cognitive disease.
Of roses for people affected and their families. The disease is like an eraser on your memories, and it is hard to see them being wiped out in your loved one's heart. Dans ces moments de
In these moments of distress, we all need a helping hand. In Alfred Pelon, we have the honor of having the Laval Alzheimer's Society, which helps many people in my riding. You are a precious resource for those suffering and their families and a source of comfort. So thank you to the Alzheimer's Society of Laval and all organizations across the country for your assistance.
People cannot access the federal services they need to live in dignity. Seniors, people with disabilities, living with poverty, new Canadians are frustrated and flooding my Nanaimo Ladysmith office with desperate calls for help. Whether they're seniors waiting for pensions that they need to get by, worried taxpayers trying to reach Canada Revenue Agency, or families seeking critical information from Immigration Canada, they face deeply frustrating obstacles this government has failed to fix. Government phone lines are jammed, websites don't work, processing backlogs cause wait times to stretch from days to weeks to months to years. And workers are frustrated too. I know Canadians deserve better treatment. So let's undo the damaging cuts that the Conservatives made. Let's rehire frontline staff, let's reopen regional offices, and let's invest properly in our vital public services.
Member for Yorkton Melville.
The Prime Minister's summer of failures means Canadians have fewer jobs, less opportunities, and uncertain futures. Part of this failure is due to the steel and aluminum tariffs across the Canadian-U.S. border. Initially, Canada was exempt, as the President indicated would continue to be the case if our Prime Minister ended China's use of Canada as a route to dump steel into the U.S. His reluctance to do so drew what he had to know what was coming: export tariffs. The only card he had: import tariffs. The Prime Minister failed to put Canadian jobs and families ahead of his desire to impress China rather than work with our largest trading partner. One of my steel manufacturers that requested a remission of surtax said they were told decisions will be subject to consideration by interdepartmental committee, potential consultation with other interested parties, and require a decision by the Governor in Council to take effect. They have no available domestic supply for raw material and are not interested in downsizing or laying off their employees. The Strategic Innovation Fund won't offset the impact, and overseas purchases aren't viable. On behalf of the economic drivers in my riding, Mr. Prime Minister, we cannot afford your failures.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Acadie, Bathurst. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been anxiously awaiting the return of the House so I can publicly congratulate Madame Raymond Dabelle-Leblanc from Caraquette in my riding of Acadie Bathurst. Madame Leblanc was awarded the national title of Winner of Small Business in the category Retail Business for her entrepreneurial excellence within the Francophone community. She founded her business, Singer Leblanc Vacuum Cleaners, with her late husband, Armand, over 45 years ago in the heart of the Acadian Peninsula. She sells, installs, and services sewing machines, vacuum cleaners, and central vac systems. The key to success, she says, is customer service and top quality products. We are all very proud of you, Madame Leblanc, and bravo for this acknowledgement of your extraordinary work in your community. Thank you.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Member for Durham.
Yesterday, the Minister of Veterans Affairs said he was uncomfortable funding PTSD treatment for someone who never served a day in uniform and is in prison for the cold-blooded murder of a woman who did wear a uniform. What makes veterans uncomfortable, Mr. Speaker, is watching a minister that acts like a tourist in his own department. He doesn't read reports, he doesn't keep his promises, he's impotent to act. When will the minister apologize to veterans and the family of Constable Catherine Campbell and revoke veteran benefits from this murderer?
Hear, hear. Hear.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague opposite and colleagues here know that we stand alongside the Campbell family For reasons of confidentiality, as the Minister said yesterday, it is impossible to comment on the details of this specific case. However, the Minister with the Department has asked for an investigation to better understand how the decision was made, and that is what we will do, Mr. Speaker.
Durham.
Mr. Speaker, that is a failure of leadership for the Campbell family and for all veterans. I can assure that member that I know veterans' benefits quite well as a veteran and former minister. There are absolutely no programs or benefits where a non-dependent, non-veteran would qualify for Veterans Affairs funding. The killer's father said the PTSD came from the murder. The killer's lawyer told the court the PTSD came from the murder. How can the Prime Minister and that member stand in this House and defend a decision that is both profoundly wrong and morally reprehensible?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, in this specific case, we know full well that Canada is grieving Ms. Campbell. This is an exceptional situation. It should not have occurred. The member opposite also knows full well that, contrary to the Conservatives, we understand that when a veteran serves, the family also serves. That is what we have heard, and that's not here. We're going to be dealing with this specific case. It will be dealt with.
Monsieur le Président, le ministre.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Veterans Affairs misled veterans regarding the lifetime pension. Publicly attacked in the newspaper one of the defenders, and is going to meetings with veterans without having read briefing notes. And now the minister is unable to acknowledge that a murderer is abusing our system. When will the minister apologize to veterans? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs. Mr. Speaker, what we can do today is to express our sympathy and acknowledge the horrific act, what happened to Officer Campbell. As the Minister said yesterday, for reasons of confidentiality, we cannot address this specific case. The decision was made, and we are currently investigating why that decision was made. What I can say today is that we understand that when a veteran serves, the family serves as well. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I think once again we can see that the Liberal summer of failure continues. This is a specific case. Chris Garnier was convicted of murdering a female police officer. He's receiving benefits for PTSD for having killed that woman, except that he never served in the Canadian Forces. If the Prime Minister doesn't realize, at the head of government, that he doesn't need to wait for the permission of an official to make a decision, well then we've got a real problem here. This is an injustice and an insult for the family. Will the situation be resolved now? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think that my colleague opposite will join us with all in the House to grieve alongside this family. It's very unfortunate to hear small politics being played on serious dramas and cruel dramas like this one. We find this situation horrific. For reasons of confidentiality, we cannot comment on the matter before the House. But when a veteran serves, the family serves as well. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Let's not talk about compassion, Mr. Speaker. We've got compassion for the victim. Yes, so that's why we're here today. That's exactly why we're here today. Chris Garnier is a criminal, a murderer, and he's the one receiving the benefits for PTSD. He's never served in the Canadian Forces. All veterans wait 9 months for an assessment and wait even longer for benefits, and now we've got this criminal who's never served receiving money. This isn't a confidential issue. It's an injustice. When is this situation going to be fixed? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, our heart goes out to the family of Ms. Campbell. We have great compassion for the family. We find cases like this very onerous. We understand that when a veteran serves, the family serves as well. That is what I want others on the side opposite to understand. We will always be there for the families. The Honourable Member for Célébrer-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals keep repeating that their most important relationship is the one with Indigenous people. Always the same old song. However, today the Minister of Natural Resources said that he would be going ahead with Trans Mountain without announcing anything about consultations with Indigenous peoples. We're talking about a constitutional obligation to consult and accommodate. How dare the Liberals say that they continue to say that this is their most important relationship when clearly their priority is to build this pipeline? Indigenous peoples can't simply be an afterthought. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member opposite for her question. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, that we want to move ahead in the right way on the Trans Mountain project. That means we need to hold consultations with the Indigenous peoples. If we continue the way things have always been done by ignoring Indigenous peoples, that's not what we want to do. We want to proceed differently. We want to ensure that we are consulting on how we can move ahead together. That is what we are doing, and we will have more to announce in the days to come.
This morning, 2 Liberal cabinet ministers announced a new and improved plan to proceed with the Trans Mountain pipeline. In the last election, the Prime Minister came to my riding of Victoria and promised to redo the Conservatives' failed approval process. Instead, he used it. Now he's using the same process again and expecting a different result. The courts just told the Liberals that their consultation plan with Indigenous peoples was insufficient. And now we're supposed to give the Liberals a do-over? Mr. Speaker, how can they expect to use the same game plan and get a different result? And now that they own the pipeline, how can First Nations possibly believe it'll be fair this time?
Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government remains committed to finding the best path forward following the decision of the Federal Court of Appeal in consultation with Indigenous groups. I'm disappointed with the question from the member opposite because at the end of the day, they expect us to continue in the same fashion that has been done forever. We want to proceed in a different way. We are asking the First Nations how we can make sure that we work together to create to make sure that we have that right path forward as we work together in that direction. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Imagine, Mr. Speaker, you pick up your phone only to hear the government say you owe them money. That would certainly give me a scare. In fact, 60,000 Canadians have received scam calls from India masquerading as the CRA. These calls especially put new Canadians and vulnerable seniors in danger. You'd think this would prompt the Liberals to act. Well, you'd be wrong, Mr. Speaker. The Indian Police Commissioner said, and I quote, "Nobody contacted us from Canada. It doesn't seem right." Well, we agree. Can the Public Safety Minister explain why Canadians have to depend on the CBC to unearth this scam and protect Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the issue with respect to telephone fraud and scams has been in the public domain for quite some time. It didn't just burst on the scene last evening. And the government has made it very clear that Revenue Canada does not approach its clients by telephone. It deals in the appropriate manner with the collection issues. It does not conduct its business over the telephone. And as the RCMP noted last night, the best way to head off this problem is by education and prevention, rather than trying to enforce the provisions after the fact.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. It's even more absurd. How come they haven't taken any action? Some 60,000 citizens from across the country have complained about a telephone scam where fraudsters were masquerading as members of the CRA. New immigrants are easy targets for this type of fraud. How is it that a CBC investigation has uncovered the source of this fraud? What did the Minister of Public Safety do to protect citizens if he was aware of this? The Honourable Minister. Our government expresses sympathy to Canadians who have disclosed personal information to fraudsters or given money. The CRA has provided detailed information in order to help Canadians to detect emails, fraudulent calls, and to protect them from this type of fraud. Never, Mr. Speaker, and this applies to all Canadians and for all information, never does the Canadian Revenue Agency ask for payments to be made over the phone. I would encourage all victims of fraud to make a complaint with public safety.
Mr. Speaker, there's a new Vets Canada drop-in support centre just blocks from Parliament. Veterans have access to immediate support, food and gas cards, bus tickets, support from social services, veteran volunteers, and much, much more. In its first 2 months, this charitable organization received 65 emergency veteran referrals from VAC case managers. So why does a convicted, incarcerated criminal who murdered a policewoman receive VAC funding while Vets Canada is fearful of losing its funding in the next few months?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Pour des...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For reasons of confidentiality, as you know, we cannot comment on this specific case. Our hearts go out to the family of Officer Campbell. We are currently conducting an investigation to determine how this decision was made.
Melville.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of Veterans Affairs said veterans just need to raise their hands and they will receive treatment. Veterans suffering from mefloquine poisoning have had their hands up for years while doing everything they can to care for their wounded and comfort those who have lost their sons and daughters in dismay because the Liberal government refuses to do the right thing. The murderer of Officer Campbell got the ear of Veterans Affairs. Why can't they?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, we express our sympathy for this incident and we take very seriously our responsibility to protect the privacy of veterans and their families. However, we all know that the department has requested an investigation in order to look into this specific case. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. For a year, I sat on the Veterans Affairs Committee, Mr. Speaker, and I met with the veterans who are disappointed and in despair, in fact, because it takes so long for replies. Their claims are refused based on far-fetched reasons. The minister is a minister, and it includes discretionary power. When will the minister take some action and reverse this disgusting decision? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are all grieving because of this tragedy, and what I can say is that we have opened a centre of excellence for PTSD. There is a suicide prevention strategy. We've reopened offices across the country that had been closed by the Conservatives and have treatment plans for people suffering from PTSD. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans. Mr. Speaker, it's unacceptable. Chris Garnier was found guilty of murder and desecration of a body in the death of Officer Catherine Campbell. He's receiving benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs for PTSD treatment when he never served in the armed forces. In answers the Liberals provided yesterday, no one mentioned the police officer who was a victim of this barbaric attack. Can the Liberal government review this absurdity and for once stand alongside victims instead of criminals? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, all members in this House grieve alongside the Campbell family. I think I've mentioned the Campbell family name several times today, but we need to maintain confidentiality here, and that is what we will do on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it's a sad situation in this country when the Prime Minister and these Liberals are saying that Canada's veterans need to stand behind a convicted murderer in order to get benefits. I'm asking the Parliamentary Secretary to put down the talking points. Right. Do what's right. What's right for Constable Campbell's family, what's right for Canada's veterans, and cancel these benefits today.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I don't need notes to say that we express our sympathy to the Campbell family. This was a horrible incident. What I can say today, however, is that we respect the fact that when a veteran serves in the family serves as well. And we will continue to serve all who are members of the department.
Canada's veterans are quite frankly outraged by this, and so is the family of Constable Campbell. In fact, her Aunt Mandy Recchi wrote on Facebook that Garnier has twisted the system and she is sickened by this. Liberal leader in Nova Scotia, the Premier of that province, Stephen McNeil, said he was initially stunned and shocked by Garnier receiving these benefits. If a veteran who murders somebody who is serving in Canada's military commits that murder, they lose all their benefits, and so do their family. Garnier should do the same. Stand up and do what's right.
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out to the Campbell family. For reasons of confidentiality, and I know that the colleague opposite would like me to say more about this specific case, but it is not possible to say or provide any additional information on this specific case. We need to respect the confidentiality for the victim, the family, and all people in all of their loved ones.
Ladysmith.
Last week, yet another boat was wrecked off the Sunshine Coast. Storm season has hit, but coastal communities are being asked to wait, again, despite dangerous abandoned vessels polluting our oceans. The Liberals' program will remove just 23 abandoned vessels this year across the entire country. And we just learned that the promised inventory of wrecked vessels hasn't even started and won't be ready before July. How can the Liberals justify to coastal communities that at this rate it will take more than 40 years to deal with this pollution backlog?
Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, our government is implementing a comprehensive plan that is addressing abandoned, derelict and wrecked vessels in Canadian waters and includes new legislation that puts this responsibility and liability on vessel owners to properly remove and dispose of these vessels. This also includes funding for the removal and disposal of high-priority abandoned and wrecked small boats, including in the riding of Nanaimo Ladysmith. We are moving significantly beyond the complacency of the Harper Conservatives on this issue because we realize it makes a difference in the lives of Canadians.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, a huge rockfall destroyed the South Okanagan irrigation canal that is essential to the orchards and vineyards that are the backbone of the local economy. The BC government has stepped up with a pledge of $5 million to help fix this, but we need the federal government to match that amount. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit in with the domestic water works that are funded by infrastructure or the innovations that are funded by agriculture. So will the Ministers of Infrastructure and Agriculture pledge today to meet with me to find a way to get this project out of the bureaucratic crack that it has fallen into?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay, for whom I have a lot of respect. Absolutely, I'll be meeting with him in my office. Mr. Speaker, it allows me the chance to talk about our historic investment in infrastructure in this country, more than $187 billion over 12 years, which will see our government invest across our country in green infrastructure, in public transit, in social infrastructure, in rural northern communities. We're going to be the cities of tomorrow. We're going to improve the lives of Canadians from coast to coast to coast, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, with cannabis legalization only 26 days away, police forces across the country are holding off on ordering the THC saliva tester, the Draeger 5000, that the Liberals have endorsed. They're stalling because there's no science linking THC in saliva to impairment, and there are reported problems with the functioning of the device in cold weather like Canadian winter. The police have said that they're not ready. So what is the Liberals' plan to actually protect Canadians from drug-impaired drivers?
Honourable Minister for Border Security and Organised Crime Reduction.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk facts just for a few minutes again. First of all, the approval of this device was based on the advice that we received from the scientific community, the Canadian Society of Forensic Scientists, Drugs and Driving Committee. The device that was approved was thoroughly tested by that committee and was subjected to significant testing by the the National Research Council. The RCMP, the OPP, the Sûreté de Quebec, large municipal police services and small municipal police services across the country have begun to use this test. It's been field tested in Canadian circumstances. This is precisely what Canadian police chiefs asked us to provide. They were met with indifference by the opposition when they asked, but we listened.
The honourable member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, sadly, in less than a month, recreational marijuana will be legal across Canada. While the Liberals rush ahead with this irresponsible plan, police services across Canada are saying they're not ready. I've personally spoken with a number of police officers who have very serious concerns about this reckless plan. Why is this government willing to rush ahead to risk the safety of Canadians just to fulfill a campaign promise, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Mr. Speaker, I actually prefer to allow the police leaders of this country to speak for themselves, and so I went to the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. I asked them about their state of readiness, and yes, there are some individual chiefs who express some anxiety because they're absolutely dedicated to keeping their communities safe. But, Mr. Speaker, we've provided them with the resources, the authorities, the technology, and the training that they said they needed to be ready, and I have every confidence in their continued ability to keep our communities safe.
Member for Sturgeon River, Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's summer of failure is costing my constituents dearly. First Nations in my riding, including Alexander and Enoch First Nations, are poised to reap major benefits from Trans Mountain. Yet this Liberal government and Prime Minister have failed them. Today, the Liberals announced half measures, and we still don't know when or even if the Trans Mountain pipeline will be built. When will the Prime Minister stop failing and set out a complete plan to actually ensure this critical pipeline gets built?
Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Trans Mountain project is an investment in Canada's future. Our government continues to have every confidence in this project. We are going to move forward in the right way. The court has provided us a clear path forward, and we intend to take it, but we will make sure that we take the time to get it right and not rush like the Conservatives would do in the past. Today's announcement is an important first step towards addressing the issues identified by the court while continuing to deliver the highest levels of marine protection that Canadians expect of our government. Merci, Mr. President.
Member for Bow River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I was in my riding and stopped by a locally owned operating oil drilling operation. There aren't nearly as many of those as there used to be. Many skilled tradespeople are out of work. Now the Liberals' failure to get Trans Mountain expansion built is even more costly to the jobs in my riding. Today's announcement does nothing to get Albertans back to work. My constituents just want to know, where's the full plan?
Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians realize that now more than ever we need to diversify our markets when it comes to our energy resources, and that's what we plan to do, but we must do so in the right way. Today, we have decided to do three things. First, we have instructed the National Energy Board to reconsider its recommendations, taking into account the effects of project-related marine shipping. Second, we will present the NEB recent government actions to protect the southern resident killer whale and to implement the Oceans Protection Plan. And third, we intend to appoint a special marine technical advisor to the NEB. We are committed to ensuring that the NEB has the expertise and capacity to deliver the best advice to this government. We look forward to having more to say in the shortly, Mr. President.
For Desnathy, Miss Nippy, Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, for months, people in northern Saskatchewan have been fighting for safe and affordable public transportation. When the provincial government cut funding to the STC, I asked if this government would step up. The Liberals chose to answer no. This government simply does not understand that public transportation is a necessary service for many in the north to see their doctors, to have surgery, or to welcome a new baby. Why does this government continue to let down the people of northern Saskatchewan?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
To thank my honourable colleague for the question. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we're investing across Canada. Our plan for infrastructure is more than $187 billion, which will see obviously investment in northern and rural communities in public transport. I can assure you on this side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, we are committed to delivering 21st century infrastructure for Canadians, which are modern, resilient, and green. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, since the shutdown of the STC, many women fleeing domestic violence have had to hitchhike or turn to Kijiji to get a ride to a shelter. It's unconscionable for a so-called feminist government to know this and do nothing. Last January, the Minister of Innovation told this House that his government would work with me to look for a meaningful solution to this crisis. To this day, I have heard absolutely nothing. So maybe I can ask the lone Saskatchewan minister this time. What will he do to ensure that people in Saskatchewan have safe, reliable public transportation?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Community.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question. I can assure her that I'm working with my Saskatchewan colleagues. We want to deliver for the people of Saskatchewan. I think there'll be good news coming, but I can assure her that she can come see me or the Minister of Public Safety and my colleagues. We will always be there for the people of Saskatchewan. We will deliver the infrastructure they need, and we'll work with the province to make that work.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa Vanier.
Canada will soon become the official co-chair of the Open Government Partnership. And next May, in that capacity, we will host a summit of this important international organization. Our approach to open government data is being internationally recognized. Can the Minister of Digital Government update this House on Canada's global ranking?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Monsieur le Président, j'aimerais remercier.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Ottawa Vanier for her question.
We have made real progress on open government. I'm proud that yesterday the Open Data Barometer has ranked Canada #1 in the world, saying that our efforts are raising the bar and how consistent political backing has been one of the keys to our success. Since taking office, we've unmuzzled government scientists. We've made ministerial mandate letters public, and we've reinstated the long-form census. We will continue to make government more open, transparent, to Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, it truly has been a summer of failure. The border is a mess, the deficit is growing, we are losing jobs, the middle class is paying more and more tax, and Canada is losing status internationally. And the Prime Minister spent $4.5 billion of taxpayer money to buy a pipeline he can't build. Trans Mountain would create jobs and help re-stimulate our economy. Will the Prime Minister tell Canadians what the full plan is to get shovels in the ground and build this expansion?
Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At a time when 99% of our energy exports are to one market alone in the United States, Canada realize that we need to expand our markets, and that's why we have confidence in this project. But we must move forward in the right way. We must take the time to properly assess all our obligations to move this project in the right way. We will not take lessons from the Conservatives, who still to this day believe that consulting Indigenous people is a suggestion and not a legal obligation. Mr. Speaker, the majority of that caucus still believes that climate change doesn't even exist to this day. Voilà.
Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Mr. Speaker, after a summer of failure on everything from trade to taxes to pipelines, business investment in Canada is down, taxes are up, and Trans Mountain remains in limbo. Ontario manufacturers are now looking south of the border to invest because this Liberal government cannot get its act together. The piecemeal approach announced today to build Trans Mountain isn't inspiring confidence in anyone. Mr. Speaker, when will this government stop failing Ontarians and finally get Trans Mountain built?
Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the Conservatives could not get 1 inch of pipeline built to new markets. We have to have a plan that addresses the concerns raised by the Court of Appeal. We need to make sure that the issues that have been raised are properly addressed. We will take the time and put the resources in place to make sure that we get this right. Mr. President.
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Conservatives, 4 new pipelines were built, and 2 of them gave access to the Asia-Pacific and to the Gulf Coast. Today, the Liberals utterly failed to deliver a comprehensive concrete plan to get the Trans Mountain expansion built. And it's been 2 years since the approval and 3 weeks since the Federal Court of Appeal said the Liberals failed on their own consultations with Indigenous people on the Trans Mountain expansion. And today, they proved how little they actually care about building pipelines and getting energy workers on their jobs in Canada. They provided no certainty for Canadians who want to get back to work. And they've said all of this before. The pipeline will be built. There will be timelines. We promised shovels in the ground. And today, they said absolutely nothing about when construction will start or when it will be completed. Where is the plan for the Trans Mountain expansion?
Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives expect to use their same old ways and expect a different result. The court has been clear, and we will follow the court's path forward that they have provided us. We need to make sure that we meaningfully consult with the First Nations, and as well, you know what, ensure that the Oceans Marine Protection Plan is properly put in place, address with the NEB all of the shortcomings, and move forward. Thanks, Mr. President.
Member for Lakeland.
They promised that plan 2 years ago, and they failed. And the Liberals inherited 3 applications for major oil pipelines to international markets. Companies invested millions to plan their multi-billion-dollar proposals because they were confident a Conservative government would give certainty so that they could build them. But the Liberals vetoed Northern Gateway, then they killed Energy East with red tape, and today they gave no details about the Trans Mountain expansion and when construction will start and be complete. Today they failed hundreds of thousands of Canadian oil and gas workers. So simply, where's the plan, and why on earth should Canadians trust a single word they say now?
Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about 10 years of inaction under the previous government. By failing to build new pipelines, Conservatives got zero Canadian resources to new markets, costing Canadians billions of dollars a year. At a time when 99% of our energy exports are going to one market, we need to expand our markets. The previous government failed Albertans, failed Indigenous peoples, failed to protect our environment, and they failed to get our resources to new markets. We will not be taking their advice, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, every party leader in Quebec supports the idea of a high-frequency train and is anxiously awaiting for it to be funded. The only person who isn't in agreement is the Minister of Transport. He has $11 million worth of studies sitting on his desk, but he still can't make a decision. The time has come to take action. Citizens are tired of waiting. The economy, environment, and development of our regions depend on it. Mr. Speaker, will we have to wait for the next election campaign for an announcement about this? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Our government is taking the best approach to delivering in safe and reliable passenger rail service in Canada. While the Harper Conservatives left Via Rail with aging train cars, we are replacing Via's cars and locomotives for use in the Windsor-Quebec City corridor, ensuring that they remain safe and comfortable and generate fewer gas emissions. On top of this, we are doing our homework with regards to ridership and are actively working with Via Rail to fully evaluate our options when it comes to high-frequency rail.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Mr. Speaker, for years I've been calling on the government to create a strategy for cell phones in rural areas. But every time I ask a question, they answer by talking about the internet as though it's the same thing. Access to a high-quality cell network is an issue of security and economics, and it's part of our daily lives. Even the government of Quebec is tired of waiting. It paid the federal government's share of 2 cell tower projects in Abitibi-Témiscamingue and Lac-Saint-Jean. Is that the Liberal strategy? Wait for the provinces to do their job for them? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our government promised Canadians they would improve telecommunications infrastructure and telecommunications prices, regardless of where they live. We started by looking at the competition, and we invested in broadband to connect up many far-flung and rural areas. We also invested in 5G technology. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to invest in telecommunications for our rural areas, and as I'm sure we'll see, Mr. Speaker, this will be necessary for them. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the former Minister of Fisheries was very cavalier about his ministerial responsibilities when he was found to be in conflict of interest. He should have done the honourable thing and recused himself from the selection process for awarding fishing licenses. But the minister certainly can't plead ignorance. Mr. Speaker, no one is above the laws and regulations set by the Ethics Commissioner. When will we see real consequences for the Liberals' total lack of ethics? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
and I think my honourable colleague already knows that the Commissioner's report have said that there has been no benefit or preferential treatment that has been given. Mr. Speaker, we will definitely not take lessons on ethics from the Conservatives opposite. We all remember the issues around Dean Del Mastro and the situation that has happened there. But, Mr. Speaker, I want you to take a good look at the Conservatives' former Minister of Public Works, who was found guilty of actually giving preferential treatment when he was in a cabinet position to advance his own friend's private sector business. We do not need to take lessons in ethics from it.
The honourable member for Caribou Prince George.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me correct the record, because the Ethics Commissioner actually found this minister, the former Minister of Fisheries, guilty of providing a contract that would benefit his family. Now, Mr. Speaker, I can understand if the honourable colleagues have been put up to actually talk on this and they haven't read the report. But, Mr. Speaker, they are continuing in absolutely deceiving Canadians. Mr. Speaker, why does this minister and his colleagues continue to deceive Canadians?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have to reiterate once again, first of all, we have all looked at this report and we've looked at it thoroughly, because as honourable members of this House, we always want to do what's right. We always want to make the right decision. And, Mr. Speaker, the Commissioner has looked into detail into this particular situation, and the report has been very clear, and that is that there was no preferential treatment given in this particular case, and I want to make sure that the member understands that fully, and that the process that was undertaken by the Ethics Commissioner was a full and thorough process.
Member for Caribou Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, guilty. 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 Guilty of breaking Canadians' trust. Guilty of furthering his family's interests. Guilty of liberal entitlement. Guilty of breaking ethics laws. The first Prime Minister in the history of our country to be found guilty of breaking ethics laws. When will the Prime Minister start holding his guilty ministers to account so everyday Canadians are no longer built out of their money and their jobs?
Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and what a lecture that is. You want to talk about being guilty? Let's talk about being guilty, Mr. Speaker, and let me remind the members opposite of their time in government when they featured members in their own caucus in leg irons because of corruption, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what about the former...
The Honourable... Order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary is just at my right, and I'm having quite the difficulty hearing what she has to say. I'm sure that other members would be interested to hear that as well. So we'll try and keep the noise down here a little bit, and we'll go back to the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I really appreciate your intervention. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the members opposite who stand today with these questions about their time in government. I want to remind them about a member of their caucus that was taken out in leg irons, Mr. Speaker, the former Parliamentary Secretary to Prime Minister Harper, who actually served time in prison for violating the Elections Act, and you can stand today and give us lessons in ethics.
Order. Order. The Honourable Member for Glengarry, Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, today we're celebrating World Alzheimer's Day, an annual event where people all around the world come together to raise awareness about Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. Dementia, including the Alzheimer's disease, affects more than 400,000 Canadians aged 65 and over, 2/3 of whom are women. With Canadians living longer lives than ever, this number will likely go up. Can the Minister of Health tell this House what the government is doing to help people with Alzheimer's disease? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague and friend from Glengarry, Prescott Russell, for his important question. As a social worker and as a daughter, I have seen the effects of Alzheimer's disease and dementia.
dementia and Alzheimer's is an absolute priority for our government, and that's the reason why that we invested an additional $20 million in Budget 2018. We also launched the Ministerial Advisory Group on Dementia. Together, we will continue to work to make a difference in the lives of those living with dementia and including their families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal summer of failure in addressing the concerns of small business owners is causing serious harm and driving out investment from this country. Raising taxes on passive investment, limiting sharing of business income, raising CPP premiums in 2019, and hiking EI premiums by 3%, plus a carbon tax on everything. Mr. Speaker, when will the finance minister stop failing small business, or does he believe, like the Prime Minister, that they're nothing but tax cheats?
The Honourable Minister of Small Business and Export Promotion.
This is exactly why we lowered the small business tax rate to 9%, to allow business owners to save thousands every year and to reinvest in their businesses to create better middle-class jobs. Small businesses represent a large share of all businesses, and most jobs are created in the private sector and drive our economy. We promised small businesses that we would help them, and that's what we're doing. We will never stop working for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, today marks the one-year anniversary of the signing of the Canada-European Union Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA. Can the Minister of International Trade and Diversification inform this House of the benefits that this agreement has provided to Canadian consumers and businesses? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Diversification of International Trade.
Thank you. And also, I'd like to thank my colleague from Vaughan Woodbridge for his timely question. Since CETA came into effect 1 year ago today, Canadian exports have increased by $1.1 billion over the year prior to CETA. That's trade flowing on everything from chocolate to lumber to services. By putting the interests of the middle class first, more Canadian companies are benefiting from unprecedented access to 500 million consumers. This is the type of trade diversification to new markets that will position Canada for success for decades to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the Liberals' summer of failure, will the government at least help our Canadian businesses? In Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier, business owners are ready to invest to create a cooperative of foreign workers, which would fill an urgent need for labour and allow them to pursue their operations. I call on the Minister of Labour to find a solution for this project, which requires no government investment and would help remedy our urgent lack of workers. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, I've been working on the temporary foreign worker file for 5 years now. Very differing opinions from all the stakeholders. One thing they can agree on, though, that Jason Kenney jigged this program up so bad, it actually hurt Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. We are committed to making sure Canadians get first crack at the jobs. We are committed to making sure we don't have downward pressure on wages. We want to make sure foreign workers have the same health and safety protections as Canadian workers, but we want employers to have access to the jobs. He jigged it up. We will do our best to unjig it.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Yesterday, when answering a question, the Secretary Parliamentary to the Minister of Natural Resources said that the Energy East pipeline could rise from the ashes if TransCanada so decides. Worse, he said that the government's decision-making process would be exactly the same as under the Conservatives. So, no review by the BAP in Quebec, no approval from the Quebec government, no environmental assessment, as was planned for under C-69. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll give the government another chance. Can the Parliamentary Secretary confirm that he will be using the same process as the Conservatives and doesn't intend to respect Quebec's environmental laws?
The
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's really interesting to hear the Bloc Québécois and the NDP talk about pipelines because they don't want to see any pipelines built in this country. They don't care about their about consulting First Nations groups. In terms of Energy East, as I said, the process is in place and it's up to TransCanada to decide if they're going to withdraw their investment or not. It's their decision. It's up to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, on September 15th, the newspaper La Presse reported that the Minister of the Environment issued a ministerial order about the Port of Montreal and Contrecoeur. Even though I'm sure that the order was issued in reaction to legitimate concerns, I wouldn't want Canada to use the striped chorus frog as an excuse to block the project. $750 million in investments and 15,000 jobs for local families are at stake. I'd like some reassurance. Does the government believe in the expansion of the Port of Montreal and Contrecoeur? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. I thank my colleague for the question. Obviously, the port in Contrecoeur is an important project for Montrealers, Quebec, and Canada. I'm confident that the Minister of the Environment will study this file with great attention and will be able to answer a future question on the subject here in this House. That concludes question period for today.
I have a notice of a point of order. The Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There have been consultations among the parties, and I hope you will find the unanimous consent of the House for the following motion: that, notwithstanding any standing order or usual practices of the House, Bill S-245, an act to declare Trans Mountain Pipeline Project and related works to be for the general advantage of Canada, be deemed to have been read a second time and referred to the Committee of the Whole, deemed considered in Committee of the Whole, deemed reported without amendment, and deemed concurred in at the report stage, and deemed read a third time and passed.
Does the Honourable Member for Kawartha, Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock have the unanimous consent of the House to propose this motion? Yes! No? There is no consent. Tabling of documents. Dépôt de documents. Introduction of government bills. Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement. Statements by ministers. Rapport